Well, welcome everybody. I will call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. and wait for the signal that we're live. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. We have no statutory public meeting tonight. We have a short closed session meeting, and we have about 10 items on the regular agenda. So let's get started. Introduction of amendments to the agenda.
Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. Motion that the agenda for the regular council meeting of January 18th, 2023 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, we do have one this evening. Councillor Van Breda has declared interest in item 7.2, the Lost Lake Drop-In Centre. The general nature of the conflict is described as Councillor Van Breda is a volunteer at the Lost Lake Drop-In Centre and friends with persons who help operate the centre. And the individual who's responsible for the daily operations of the building is his employer in one of his jobs. So.
All right, thank you. So, Councillor Van Breda, when that one comes up, I think the process is that you exit the room, and we'll call you when it's over. A motion that the minutes of the special council meeting held on December 7th, 2022 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Bone. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Motion to receive the minutes of the outside agencies and boards, October 20th, 2022, District of Kenora Home for the Aged minutes of Board of Management, and November 14th, 2022, District of Kenora Homes for the Aged minutes of Board Management. Moved by Councillor Bowen, seconded by Councillor Cosco. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. 7.1, former Mayfair Theatre. I will lift that because there are options in it that the council needs to give direction to staff. Item 7.2, I will again just automatically lift that for the same reason. Item 7.3, Bigwood Service Extension Project Update. Lifted by Councillor Bone. Item 7.4, 2023 Interim Tax Levy. Item 7.5, 2023 Temporary Borrowing Bylaw. Item 7.6, Ontario Regulation 284/09 Compliance Report 2023. Item 7.7, Authorization Human Resources Reserve. Councillor Cassidy. Item 7.8, Ride Program Agreement 2022-23 and 2023-24. 7.9, exercise of delegated authority during the municipal election period. Councillor Bone. Item 7.10, accessible elections report pursuant to section 12.13 of the Municipal Elections Act as amended. Item 7.11, transition of blue box recycling to full cost producer responsibility. And I think there are options on, other options on, there's a recommendation. So, 7.11, Councillor Van Breda. So, adoption of items not requiring separate discussion. I have items 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, 7.8, and 7.10. Does that meet with clerk? Does that agree with you? Thank you. So we are lifting 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.7, 7.9, 7.11. Motion to adopt those items listed as not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And delegations. As promised, 5 minutes, half the time. So this is Indigenous Services Canada. Is there a staff member associated with introducing this, or?
Yes, good evening. I'm Valerie Flynn. I'm the Director of Operations from Indigenous Services Canada. And with me here this evening, I have Steve Samuel, who is on site here in Sioux Lookout. He's our facilities manager, and Grant Havelsrud, who has been connected with Kristen in making this presentation, and the program manager, project manager on this file. So I thank you for this opportunity to update following our presentation late winter last year, if I recall correctly. We did share the presentation, so I know your time is valuable, recognizing how you're moving through the agenda. I don't know if you wish us to walk you through the slides, or if everyone has perhaps read it and have some key questions. We could, happy to proceed either way.
Council?
I'd like to walk us through. Perfect. We'll do that then.
Thank you.
I'm going to let Grant walk us through it.
Thank you. So a little bit about FNIB. We are under Indigenous Services Canada. An integral part of our role is holistic, integrated First Nations governed health service delivery. Through that, we are interested in the divestiture of federal lands in a manner that supports that objective. And for Sioux Lookout, the divestment of real property is expected to be a multi-year project. So a little bit of background on the Zone Hospital. I'm sure most of you know, but was constructed in the 1950s, originally as a tuberculosis facility, and eventually converted to a hospital. It's the hub, or it was the hub of health service delivery for First Nations in the area. And although the Menoyawin Hospital was constructed and completed in 2010, we continued to use that campus, the Zone Hospital campus, for continued health program and service delivery. SLIFNA, Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority, was established in 1990, was created to oversee the community-led health service delivery for 33 First Nation communities in the area, funded in large part by the federal government. And we continue to support their health transformation process. Laxal First Nation has, as you know, is the larger partner in the area. They have indicated their intent through a process of addition to reserve to obtain surplus properties from the federal government as they become available. The regional distribution center, so what we had been looking at one point of obviously moving out of the Zone Hospital and the distribution center that had been proposed by MA and KI. There was definitely an interest on our part to participate as one of the number of tenants that would occupy that distribution center that was slated to be built at the airport. But unfortunately, as of now, there's been very little movement, and we've sort of come to terms with the idea that it's probably not going to see fruition. So the nurses' stores warehousing is a component of our health delivery and program service process, and it has been operated from the zone hospital campus with the expectation of providing services and products to the 33 First Nations in the area and to SLIFNA as a general process. With the establishment of SLIFNA, we began to transition programs and services to them. The provision of health equipment and supplies continued to be from our warehouse, though. As we moved further along, obviously the zone hospital had started to decline, and we had to look for another location for that warehouse. Meanwhile, we continued to operate from the zone hospital, and the decommissioning of that hospital was actually deferred until we had found another home for that warehouse. So we undertook a refit, obviously looking in the area for opportunities for leasing, which were fairly non-existent. We undertook a refit of our existing nurses' residence at 69 7th Avenue to accommodate the warehouse. So as following the temporary approval, the zoning approval by the municipal council, we were asked to look for opportunities for a more permanent home for the warehouse. So we undertook an investigation over the last 9 months to try and find a better location for that. That investigation included the options of leasing an existing facility within Sioux Lookout or within another community, if that was a possibility, construction of a new purpose-built facility, or continue to use the 69th 7th Avenue as it was. And for that investigation, we had to keep in mind that we are looking to transition that warehouse from us to another agency, and most likely that would be SLIFNA. So option one, which is a preferred option, is to lease an existing facility. Advantages of doing that include potentially lower wait periods, obviously, to get into that facility, provided it was suitable. And there would be no divestment responsibility once the warehousing service was fully transitioned. So once that transition takes place, we wouldn't be with a building that we would then have to try and divest. Disadvantages of leasing for us, the facility may or may not meet our needs, which would require obviously additional construction and extend the time for us to move into that facility. And the low local inventory of suitable commercial space is an issue, and waiting periods for suitable space can be extensive. Option number two was to look at construction of a new facility. This is our least desired option. The advantage of constructing a new facility, obviously, is that it would be built to our specifications. The disadvantages, significant upfront capital cost. And if constructed by the government, we would be then expected, once the transition was made to moving it to another agency like SLIFNA, we would be then left with having to divest that building. And the third option was to remain within within 69 7th Avenue for the interim. Main advantage of doing that, obviously, is that we've already done the construction. We've already ensured that it meets our existing needs, and we've already moved across, so there's no construction or relocation costs. Disadvantages, obviously, are that although it was retrofitted to our needs, it still is not a custom-built warehouse. It has low ceilings and whatnot. The building is continuing to age. Obviously, it's going to need ongoing operation, O&M maintenance to keep it going. And there are other community considerations to consider as well, as far as housing concerns, zoning, obviously, concern of us, and Lac Seul First Nations requirement for additional lands. So our current path, as it stands now, FNIB does not want to construct a new facility. It's not the best use of federal funds, because we know we're in the process of transitioning that warehouse. With no readily available commercial lease alternative, the only appropriate solution for us in the foreseeable future is to maintain what we're doing now at 69 7th Avenue and apply for an extension of the temporary zoning in the meantime. Meanwhile, we are continuing to work with our partners, in particular SLIFNA, towards an eventual transition. Our goal is not to maintain the warehouse. Our goal is to transition that to the health authority. So that's what.
All right.
So, any questions with respect? I imagine there are.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have some questions. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, is there a time frame that the government has to divest, or?
So much as what Grant was describing, it's a multi-year plan, and the work that is happening in the partnership that's being established with Lac Seul First Nation and the Sioux Lookout Health Authority. I understand there's a larger plan for construction of a building that SLIFNA has been advancing for a few years. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. And so that is the building that we are looking towards having the storage space added into. We are starting the other decommissioning activities, demolition activities. So I would expect we would see probably over the next 5 to 10 years that all these federal properties will be divested, to our terminology. Now, whether that means going to Lac Seul First Nation or going to the Health Authority or selling as fair market value, which is one of the tenets of how we're to dispose of federal property. So all of that is always in discussion and being evaluated based on the building conditions and based on the interest, certainly of community and the health partners that are involved currently.
So the zone campus is federal? Is the nursing station federal as well?
It is, yes.
Okay, so you're looking at divesting both, and
Yes.
okay. I have no issue with continuing on the way things are going right now until things can move forward with SLIFNA and Lac Seul. So I think it's a great idea.
Council? Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, so just clarify for me, if you're going to transfer the operations of it to SLIFNA, but still divest the property to Lac Seul, and then SLIFNA would operate that on Lac Seul's property then?
Correct, which is, we have seen this in other other municipalities or other communities where the First Nation who takes on the federal property as part of their addition to reserve then can work and identify other First Nation partners, for which the Health Authority is one that they've already been having those conversations with. So.
Okay. What's the time frame that you know to complete the addition to reserve? Is that, I know the divestment's 5 to 10, but I know some of these addition to reserves and land claims, those can drag out for multiple years, like
And
10 or more.
if it's a clean process, yes, it can take 5 years as well. And I'm certainly not able to speak on where Chief Clifford Bull or the First Nation is at with their application or process, because that is not handled by our side. That is a Crown Relations that works with the First Nation for that process.
Sorry, Councillor Cassidy, did I hear you say 9 to 10 years for divestiture and 5 years for ATR?
An ATR, if it's very clean and simple, it perhaps could be 5 years. But that's where I don't know where the process is
And
at.
does the ATR include that period of divestiture? Is that, you're including that as one? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So 5 to 10 years is more what I'm hearing. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Cassidy, did you have?
No, that's fine. And I guess the other question is when was ISC last in contact with the distribution center group?
I'd have to say it was probably over 12 months ago.
Over 12
And
months.
there had been informal reach out, and there's no interest. It initially had started as 3 First Nations along with Morgan Fuel, and then that changed to only 1 remaining First Nation. And then, of course, with COVID, that didn't seem to carry on. So,
If something was to occur, would that be an ideal situation for this to be at the airport versus located in town?
we would have to honestly go back and look at the value of that. And is this, because there might be an expectation that we are the primary tenant, and if our commitments are already to SLFNA and looking at that work, we may not be able to make that long-term commitment that would be required for the airport. That would be the greatest challenge, I think, for the proponents of building another warehouse. If they had multiple partners, certainly we could explore it, but that's not something we've not been approached since those initial conversations with the 3 First Nations. And then, of course, part of the planning considerations for SLFNA in their primary healthcare buildings and spaces will be knowing that they will be taking on this aspect of the nursing support services in delivering critical medical supplies and equipment, right, continue into the north. So,
Okay, so I guess with that, if there was, like, if something did come available within the next 5 years, like you said, the process could still drag out for 5 to 10 or longer. Would you guys revisit this then, I guess? And like where I'm thinking too is this is still, like if SLFNA is looking to build a larger facility and we all know that housing is a struggle. We have a multi-residential unit here. And if there is land up at the airport, if something came up, would that possibly sway things where maybe SLFNA could look at this property as housing for their staff as well, as opposed to a warehouse facility?
and that certainly is an option for SLFNA with Lac Sioux in looking at how they're going to use the land and the existing buildings. It's absolutely an option. It wouldn't necessarily be an option that we would be involved in, though.
So right now your primary focus then is transfer this site, wash your hands of it.
Maintain the service while
maintain it right
SLFNA
now.
establishes the
Okay.
requirements, and then transition, as we have done with other health services, into the health authority.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just, there's no specific request here that I saw, and you wouldn't get a response as a delegation. We would look to a report from staff for that. But if I understand correctly, are you, not tonight, you haven't made that request, but you're looking to extend and Development Services Manager, we gave 2 years before or 1 year? For the temporary, 1 year. And so from what you've said, this sounds rather indefinite. You haven't asked for anything. You're updating us, is that what's going on
We were
tonight?
advised that we were not able to ask until we provided the update.
Okay.
But we would certainly seek the maximum in terms of our permit. And I think we could submit that perhaps towards the end of March. I'd have to find the date, but.
Okay, no, that's good. So council, we're not making any decisions here tonight. We're receiving an update from ISC, and staff will bring a report to us if in fact there's an official request for an extension from ISC. So any further questions, council? So with that, unless you have anything else,
No, thank you very much for your time. I guess I'll see you in a couple months again.
thank you very much for your update. All set, clerk? All right, moving on to staff reports. Item 7.1. The council directs staff to pursue option 4 and complete the demolition process by demolishing the building in its entirety and return the site to a graded state and install new municipal water and sewer services. Speaking of the former Mayfair Theatre, 58 Front Street. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Cassidy, and discussion. I lifted it, but council discussion. There's a recommendation from staff that we go ahead with option 4. We've all seen the report. Any questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Legel.
I think for me, for 2023, I would like to just go with alternative 1, just to maintain for now. I would like to, hopefully in 2024, we will have the 2021 audit and surplus and the 2022 audit and surplus. And then maybe we could look at putting some funds aside, and that would, instead of going to long-term debt, or maybe half long-term debt and half from surplus, so it eases some of the pain. And then we could revisit that for January of 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Bone.
How much would it cost to complete the project? Get it to grade with services?
I think approximately about 350,000, or sorry, 3 May Lawrence, about 350,000 is my best, I kind of guess based on past demos I've seen and service installations.
Councillor Van Breda, you had, carry on.
Yes, so mine is that, so once the demolition is set and we're going to hopefully sell the land, how much will the land be sold for? Because I know that the building right now is being sold for $1. It is a lot easier to sell land for $1 than it is to sell a building that hasn't been used in a few years. Will we be selling the land for $1?
3 Mayor Lawrence, that ultimately would be council's call. I would think, I mean, on a staff level, I would push that because we've invested all this money. We'd like to see something. You now have a new service lot downtown Sioux Lookout, so.
Yeah, and my further question to that is just like, is there something that we can put there temporarily, because we don't want 2 vacant lots right on Front Street, right? We have the old, the lot that's empty right now, and now we're gonna have 2 empty lots. Is there something that we can put in that? I'm thinking that, not to make any examples, but in Kenora, they had an empty lot. They turned it into, they had a food truck there with some picnic tables. People can sit that. Is that something that we can look at while we're trying to sell the lot, just so that there's something there for now, so it's not like an empty lot.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Lawrence, for sure, it would be municipal lands. The other lot is not municipally owned, so we can't kind of dictate what they do there, but being municipal property, something like that wouldn't be that expensive and onerous to do.
Councillor Costco.
I agree with Corey. I would like to see us wait. We have a new economic development officer coming online. I would like to see another opportunity to see if we can do something with it. And I'm also with Councillor Van Breda that I do not want to see a non-aesthetic pleasing parking lot of gravel on Front Street. I would like to see Front Street become aesthetically pleasing, where you can go downtown and it's it's beautified. Where right now that is not the case. So I would like to more time to see what the options are, not just tearing the building down.
Councillor Cassidy.
I am in favor of option 3 over option 4, which would be to offer some form of a grant program to try and spur on developers to come in and do something with the structure as it stands. However, I do also agree with Councillor Lego and Costco. I think for 2023, I would almost like to see us just stay the course on this for another year. I think we're still coming out of COVID. You saw building materials were extremely high last year while we were trying to market this, which would probably defer developers. So I would like to just try and continue marketing it for another year before we look at something else.
Councillor Van Breda.
To play the devil's advocate, so we took this over in 2012, right? In your opinion, if we were going to sell it, would we have sold it by now?
Through Mayor Lawrence, when we first took it over, the building was in fairly rough shape at the time and just aesthetically not very pleasing on the interior. So,
And in the photos, it still looks like it still is in rough shape.
but it was fully finished, I guess you could say at the time. So through this process, as you read through the report, we've done different things to remove the asbestos, remove all the interior stuff, like everything. Basically, it's a shell of a building now, in essence, to see the structural components of it, to make sure everything's structurally sound, which it appears like it is. I think the way it sits now, it's in a better position to sell than it was before we did these these demolitions.
So like sorry to interrupt again, my kind of vision I'm trying to say is that, do you expect it to be sold within the next year? Because if it's just be there, abandoned building for the next year, we might as well do something with it, as opposed to just hoping and wishing we've been doing for the past 10 years, and that has not been working.
Through Mayor Lawrence, for sure. I don't think it's going to be an easy sell. There's still lots of work involved. It's not because you got the shell, you just start over again. You got a sloping floor. There's no parking on site. The roof needs to be
Redone and everything.
recovered,
Yeah.
and so I mean it's
Exactly, because like,
still hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it.
yeah, because I'm thinking we're selling the building for $1, which is great. But if I were to buy that building, I'm thinking new roof, sloping floor, this has to be done. I'm thinking it's gonna be at least probably $200,000 to even get it operational again. Well, if it was an empty lot, I could spend $200 on a fresh new building. That probably will be more aesthetically pleasing and so on and so forth, right?
No, that's very true.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get you into second, Councillor Costco. Sorry, I would argue that, and I'm listening, I'm always well informed by councils, but I see a building that's, it's clean now compared to what it was. The development services manager is quite correct. There's a clean building. You can see the structure. You can see all the floors, everything that's there. It structurally has integrity. It needs a new roof, absolutely. It's certainly you can cost that. It's all there for you. If you demolish the lot's not going to sell for a penny. We will get some money. We'll ask for some money for the lot, or a loonie, I guess was our asking price for the building. So there's $200,000 for a new roof, but it's going to cost you, a prime lot in downtown should be $100,000, a clean lot, the service lot. So add that to and then what's the value of the foundation, what's the value of this? So if the right buyer came along, but the right buyer has not come along, and we've transitioned from trying to sell it just as it was, and as the report says, we've had 2 deals where we've sold it for a loony both times, and the only condition that they had was to get going within a year, and they spent, for whatever their reasons, both buyers decided not to proceed. And then you've had, since we cleaned it up, more lookers. So I was torn when I actually spoke to the CAO yesterday, looking desperately for uses, because in a way I'd like to see it retained. Anyway, Councillor Costco.
Now, is there a fiscally responsible way that we can patch that roof so it doesn't continue to leak and deteriorate if we save it for the additional year?
Through Mayor Lawrence, the upper roof, likely we can do some patching and stuff. The lower roof, the actual structural elements of the roof are starting to rot and deteriorate, so you might need some more work there.
Councillor Cassidy.
I think further to Councillor Van Brita's comment about $200,000 to fix the roof, even if you have a blank lot, $200,000 doesn't get you very far when you're building fresh either. I would say, I don't know, to replace the buildings that's there would probably be close to $1 million.
Through Mayor Lawrence, likely well more than $1 million for that size of a building.
That with that frame and that structure that's there.
Yeah, not to a finished building, just to,
Yeah, just to what's there, like the replacement value, and that's what we see. And when you see that we've taken this as almost like a phased demolition approach, right? We took something, we cleaned it up, we mitigated the risk, we got rid of the asbestos, we made it more appealing, and we're continuing to do that to try and avoid the $700,000 demolition cost and $100,000 return on selling a blank lot. That from my experience on council, that was the approach that we've taken. Now you take those years that we've had it and you throw COVID into the mix, and what COVID's done, you take the shortage of trades and trying to attract developers to our market, you throw that in the mix. I think staff has been in an uphill battle with this, and I'm hoping that we can see some of the building material costs come down, and although inflation it's not helping things, but I'm hopeful that coming out of COVID now, we might see a bit more uptake on this. We have it in a place where it's as marketable as it can be. I say we give it another year, see what we can attract, and then maybe bring this almost exact same report back in 2024, and let's make a decision on what we do. That's my take on it. But.
Council? That's not how we do business here.
I just have one more question.
Councillor Costco.
Have we had anyone approach you about a grant?
Through Mayor Lawrence, a few years ago, we did kind of a development grant. Well, actually, I guess that's how it started. We had someone approach the town with kind of asking for us to provide money in order for them to renovate the building and to kind of bring new life to it. And at the time, they didn't want to limit it to this one person. If we're going to provide this opportunity, we're going to provide it to anyone who has, an idea and wants to come forward with it. So we did develop an RFP in order to do this, and then there was another opportunity that arose, as indicated in the report, that council asked that staff hold off on this process, and then once it came back, we kind of went into this first set of alternatives, and that's when the demolition process started.
Because if we advertise to the public that we're open to that concept, the buyer might be more receptive to like, are people aware that that is an option?
Well, through your Mayor Lawrence, that would have to come back to council for a decision. And that is an option here as well. So.
Councillor Lego.
Just for consideration, maybe once we get all that information from the audits and we put some money aside, that can be either used for the grant or for demolition.
Yeah.
So just something for consideration.
So my take is I would be opposed to investing more money in the building without a definite use. I don't mean enough money to keep it going for a year to maintain minimum integrity of the building, what if you need some patching or whatever. But beyond that, I would oppose it. I think we're, at this stage, we've had 10 years of evidence, we're throwing good money after good money. I think it's, and I also think that we should, personally, I think 1 year, and that's it. I just think if the fish haven't bit then, let's get out of town. That's Councillor Van Breda.
To also speak about, I know it is also an exhibit, talking about, again, on my mind, alternative number 4. If, I know that the price of copper is really high now, is there salvageable parts in the building if we were to demolish it that could help offset the cost of it, such as copper wires, such as the timber, such as...
So
Yeah.
3 Mayor Lawrence, that was all removed with the interior.
Oh, it was?
demolitions.
Okay, sorry. Okay. I rest my case, thank you.
So, Development Service Manager, I'm sorry, how do you feel about, it's a modified is there an alternative that suits what we're describing here?
3 Mayor Lawrence, I think alternative 1, I think, the building is more than capable of lasting another year based on, just the visual inspections of it. There was renewed interest this year after, with what we did to it last year, so if some lumber prices come down and some opportunities present themselves, there may be. It's hard to say. I mean, we could tear it down, then next month someone walks in and says they wanted that building. It's just the capital needed to get it up to snuff or back to.
Councillor Lego.
Have we reached out to any of the communities in the north or Lac Sioux or?
3 Mayor Lawrence, I have not, no.
Would it be something to be a bit more proactive on this? To reach
3
out to
Mayor
them?
Lawrence, yeah, sure.
We did, I mean, we used a real estate agent for
Yeah.
several years to try and sell it. But we have an economic development officer starting some? Yeah, okay, okay. But does staff have the time to market? Or to, will we have, yeah, okay. And, sorry, was there somebody else?
Just a distribution center.
I scribbled that down for her. We have considered that, but yeah, I mean, it's an idea.
I mean, we just had people in the room, so.
Yep, absolutely. Alternative 1 modified, that we're saying, I'm suggesting council 1 year, like put a hard cap on it, 1 year, and direct staff to go hard at it, and minimal money, whatever, just to keep the building alive, so to speak. Was that fair, council? Clerk, how can I move this forward?
3 Mayor Lawrence. Pardon me. If the mover is agreeable to changing the option 4 to option 1, then it would just be a matter of then calling the vote.
Okay, we don't, the option didn't state, he's not changing it to, oh, I'm sorry, it does say option 4, I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Councillor Van Breda, you were the mover.
Yes, so what would you like me to do? Sorry.
Pay attention, and we'd like to change this to option 1 in the motion. You were the mover of the motion, and the motion says to pursue option 4. So we're going to change, we're asking you, are you amenable to change it to option 1?
Yes.
Very good.
Apologies, sorry.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Lost Lake Centre. That council consider the listed remedial actions for the Lost Lake Senior Centre in Hudson and make a determination as to which action to undertake. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Discussions starting with Councillor Van Breda's conflict. That's why I've got your VB down there, but thank you. So this is again, we need to make a decision here on the options. Council, discussion, questions? Councillor Costco.
Has there been any investigation to alternative sites? Like, I know it says
Development Services Manager?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, in regards to relocating the senior center?
Yeah.
No, not. We're just kind of waiting until we get direction to move forward and how you guys want to move forward.
No, has there been any discussion, have we discussed anything with the seniors in Hudson?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, not at a staff level.
I really feel strongly like if we're gonna make one of these options, that we should have some discussion with the seniors in Hudson rather than making a decision for them. There should be some community input into this. Because I think that this is a really crucial building for the well-being of that community. And for us not to have input from the people, the players, does not seem fair to me. I would like to see those discussions happen before we make a decision.
Clerk?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So just a little background information. The former Hudson Advisory Committee, which used to provide advice to the Hudson Ward, Ward Councillor, pardon me, did sort of weigh in on this issue. So the issue of the Lost Lake Drop-In Center has been sort of on the books since about 2007, when the first sort of economic or strategic plan for Hudson was developed, which was called Charting Our Course, Planning Hudson's Future. So the future of the Lost Lake Drop-In Center was discussed with the community at that time. Nothing obviously happened. In 2014, that document was reviewed and renewed and updated, and there was community consultation again at that time, sort of a focus group type thing to get input into what are the priorities and what areas do we want to work on. And then further to that, the Hudson Advisory Committee itself, through one of its work plans, was looking at various initiatives and projects and needs and so on for the community. And so it was sort of discussed at that time. But just in terms of history, but specifically with these specific alternatives, yes, the development services manager is right that, you know, at this point it was sort of looked at the staff level as it's a municipal asset, you know, and council would need to make a decision with respect to its future. And that's why the report is here before us today.
Councillor Lego?
How bad is the mold in that building?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the water kind of readily leaks into the space every rainfall, so come springtime you're going to see some more water in the basement. So it's getting worse every year, and it's just a matter of we just got to, in essence, clean it out at minimum and try to monitor the moisture and try to keep it as dry as we can for the interim, if that's the, you know, the course of action we take.
And the rest of the structure?
So the foundations, it is, sorry, through you, Mayor Lawrence, the foundation is caving in different areas. The floor joist, the grade level around the building is too high, so a lot of the floor joists are rotten around the perimeter. The rest of the structure, you really can't see into the space. I know the shingles need to be replaced. All the fascia boards are rotten. I mean, it's just one of those buildings it's hard to spend a lot of money on to bring it to new, because you know the foundation has to be replaced before you do any of that stuff. So.
Councillor Cassidy?
I think the issues with the structure, health with the mold are, for me, I think it's too high. I would like to see us look at another option for the senior center, drop-in center. And I do agree with Councillor Costco. I think possibly we try and just work with some of the community members out there and make sure we find a suitable space for them. And I think I'm in favor of the demolition of the structure, but what I would also like to suggest is that staff reach out to SLAM. They do have a trade school out there that's building houses, and this might be a great partnership where if we have a vacant lot, we can buy the materials, and if they're looking for another project to continue, let's reach out to SLAM and see if we can make something happen there, and maybe we can get a new structure out in Hudson.
Councillor Costco?
I also believe that SLAM is renting one of the old buildings in downtown core, which they use during the day, maybe the seniors could use as well. school, which is in partnership with Sioux. There's lots of empty space in there. I think it'd be a great partnership. So I think prior to making this decision, I'd like to see some alternatives and some consultation.
Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I agree with the consultation with the residents of Hudson. If the building is no longer inhabitable, it should be taken down. I kind of like option or alternative 4, where that demolition, asbestos audit, and some renovations to the community hall. Again, we would have to see the final pricing on that, but we could also look at working with SLAM to do some renovations or a new build. But if you're looking at a new build, you're $650,000. Is that what it says in there?
Yeah, 3 Mayor Lawrence, for kind of replicate what was there with a full basement and 3,000 square feet.
Well, if you can redo the community hall or fix up the community hall, and it can be used as both as a community hall and a drop-in center, then you're sort of getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, from what I hear and know of the centre, I think it's time to demolish it. But we need to have a plan for what's happening with the current. To me, it's kind of like the Mayfair. We shouldn't be investing a penny in that unless it's just life support to keep it going while we're using it. But it sounds to me like the sooner we demolish it, the better. But have a plan, an alternative. And I think Councillor Cassidy had a great idea there. And maybe it's, I think we need to approve the demolition. It's the timing of the demolition and maybe the plan, maybe there's an interim plan in the immediate year or two after the building's demolished until the final, a new building, if that's what it is ready. But for me, from the report, and this isn't the first report on this center, it's a building waiting to collapse almost. Development Services Manager?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I don't think we're at
Quite
the
at that
collapse
stage, okay.
per se, but it's just, it's the money to invest into it to bring it back up to standard it'd be just as much to build a new building, I think. Something has to be done, and consultation with the locals there and that's why when we had the first time we brought this to council was in Hudson in an effort to kind of get some dialogue, and I don't know if anyone came to the meeting or not. So it's, and again, if there's an opportunity to reach out and see what they'd like to do.
Councillor Lego?
If the building is okay for the next couple of years, and then we could look at doing something within the community hall, if that's their choice, that would be, for me, the most feasible thing to do, and then demolish it in a year or two. So you can use it while the transition's happening to a new, sort of a newer facility within the community hall. The community hall is a good structure, or is it something that needs to come down at some point too? So.
Through Mayor Lawrence, it's not in the greatest shape. Like the kitchen addition, washroom addition is in pretty poor shape, so you'd have to invest some money into that to upgrade it. They're older facilities with a lot of lack of maintenance over the years, and it's it needs work too. But it's definitely in better shape than the Lost Lake Center.
So we're looking to give you some direction here. You're looking for some direction. Sounds like to say go ahead and demolish it at this time isn't in council's wheelhouse until there's an alternative. So go ahead, CEO.
Through your worship to yourself and council, I've had experience before where we've had foundation problems in another municipality, and the building was actually shut down by order because it was unsafe. So I have grave concerns that keeping it open for 1 to 2 years or until we find a suitable location. I think it's imminent that we work with the community to help them and foster those relationships to perhaps move to one of these other buildings in the interim. But I think council needs to make the decision, or at the very least, authorize a structural engineer report on the building, because from a staff perspective, from my perspective, I think that the building is unsafe.
CBO Hill.
Through Mayor Lawrence, speaking to that, so Nadine, we had the asset management plan done and building condition reports done with consulting engineers, and while they indicated that the building was in extremely poor condition, they didn't state that it was, an immediate threat. It's still not in good shape, but I agree that we shouldn't leave it for several years, but definitely a decision has to be made in the near future.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I think we need to, like, within the next couple months here, reach out, develop an action plan on where the uses that are in that building now can go elsewhere in the community, make sure that the folks are looked after and they have somewhere to go, and then let's look to take the building down and explore options for a rebuild in another building, and would probably be another report back to council, I think, in somewhere later in the year.
Okay.
My thoughts.
Councillor Costco.
I really think that we have to have community input from them. We can't do this process without the community input. I mean, they might be fully aware that the building is in terrible shape. They might have alternatives already. They might be willing to do that. So I don't think that we should be making any decisions without the input from them.
So it sounds like direction to staff is council understands that the building probably is heading for demolition within the next year to two maximum, maybe sooner. But we would like staff to work with the various groups in Hudson to find alternative accommodation for an interim location, and then work towards bring a report together. What are the needs in Hudson, and how can they best be met? Is it a renovation to the community hall? Is it a new building? What is it? Is that fair enough? And we'll need to withdraw or do we need? You can help me.
Through Mayor Lawrence, can I just add one thing? It'd be nice to set aside some dollars. I think at minimum we should clean out the basement and clean up any of the mold affected materials as kind of the first phase, and then.
Would you need to do that prior to a demolition?
I think it's more about the occupancy of the building
Yep.
to get rid of that stuff. If it's gonna be 3, 6, 7 months, then we should at the very least remove that sort of stuff.
So how do we approach that? Do you put something into the capital budget, or how?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And by is council sort of indicating a pre-approval of that? We don't know the amount, but.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I was thinking around 10 grand should be sufficient.
To spend up to a maximum, so perhaps the direction is to spend up to a maximum of $10,000 to keep the building viable, however you. Perhaps if we talk, there's less pressure. All said, thanks.
Well, I actually just have one comment is, like, how many people are using this senior center on a daily basis, weekly basis? I mean, the next one could be, rather than go 3,000 square feet, just downsize it a bit.
I think that's part of the direction we're giving is to determine the need.
Okay.
Did you have a comment on that too, quick?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yes, so I know at present the use of the facility has morphed somewhat over the last 8 months to a year. It's less a senior center now as it is sort of a community center. They have, there's some community volunteers who are operating a clothing exchange depot out of that space, and they still use it for drop-in for puzzles and tea and those types of things. I know it's open typically 4 to 5 nights a week for about an hour to 2 hours for this community space use and this thrift store use type thing. I wouldn't say that my knowledge is complete with respect to the use, but I do know it is being used in that respect at least.
Thank you.
Councillor Lego.
Is there still a vendor in there?
Yes, we also have a tenant in that building that are paying rent. So that's also on the other side of the drop-in center. And I do have a draft resolution for council's consideration. So that council, it may not be in the best order, but I think I've covered everything. The council directs staff to consult with the residents of Hudson regarding their needs and wants for a community center and identifies an interim location. That council directs staff to discuss possible partnership with SLAM for the construction of a new facility. And further, that council directs staff to allocate up to $10,000 in the 2023 budget to make the facility environmentally safe, until an alternative or new location is identified. And further, that council directs staff to report back to council following its consultations with the residents and SLAM.
Fair enough, council. Okay, and do we need to withdraw the previous motion?
That would be Councillor Lego.
Withdrawn. So with the motion that the clerk just read, a mover, Councillor Cassidy, seconder, Councillor Costco. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. All right, item 7.3, Bigwood Service Extension Project Update. That council receives the Bigwood Service Extension Project Update in regards to cost changes as contained within the Treasurer's Report number 2023-11 dated January 18, 2023. This is to receive the report. Council mover, please. Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bone. Discussion starting with Councillor Bone.
Yep, I'd just like to get an update, a little bit of history on the project because I'm new to this, and the one line, the increase from 2.2 million to almost 5.89 million, and where everything is at as far as where the long-term debt's going to end, because there's parts of funding that maybe we're not going to get or we are going to get. So I just like a bit of a history lesson on it.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, this project originally started back in 2017 and 2018. When you refer to the 2.2 million, that was the original cost that went in as part of the funding application with NOHFC and FedNor, with the costs that were estimated at the time. During this process, there's been a lot of changes to the project. There were items that were brought up during the design process in regards to the booster station and changes that needed to be made to that to accommodate bigger pipes and stuff. The other items that have increased the project a lot has been the contracted services in regards to the project. So originally an RFP went out, I believe a year or so ago, and that RFP was for both the water and sewer service lines that went up Fifth Avenue, and also included the booster station. So it was one RFP. That RFP came back and it was way over budget, and there was no way that the municipality would be able to pay for the costs of that. After that, it was determined that the project was to be split out in two. There was the water and sewer extension part that went up Fifth Avenue, and with that project as well, it was, or RFP, sorry, it was included the water and sewer line that went at the airport underneath the highway and onto the Bigwood service site. So that was one RFP. It went out, and it came above cost with what we originally thought it would be, only due to the fact that inflation had started to arise back then. The second RFP went out in regards to the booster station and generator. So during that time, I believe it was the third revised budget that was brought to council. Staff had requested to increase the budget by 60% for that particular part of the project, knowing that the cost for constructions, the cost for travel, the cost for materials, and all those items have gone up that much. And when the RFP closed and we brought it back to council, it just came under the revised budget of the increase that we had requested. As of right now to date, we have spent roughly $800,000 on that project. And we still have the remaining Fifth Avenue to complete, as well as the water and sewer line underneath the highway. We also then will start mobilization in the spring for the other contractor to come in, and they will start the construction next year on the upgrade of the booster station along with the generator as well. So depending on how long the rest of the construction will take, the project in itself may not be completed until 2024. So it won't be until 2024 until we know the actual true cost of the full project and how much the long-term debt would be at the end. But this is the revised estimated cost project that staff has brought forward so that you can see roughly where the project is currently sitting in regards to a budget point of view.
Councillor Van Breda.
Thank you. So you're saying it's not done until 2024. So are there more time to apply for NLHSC and for FedNor funding until 2024? 'Cause I was reading this, that, so is there, can we apply for funding as we're kind of building this as well, or?
So funding has already been approved through you, Mayor Lawrence, funding has already been approved for this project. Mm-hmm. So what is allocated from both FedNor and NOHFC is what is allocated towards this project. Yeah.
So
there's
so
there's no other funding that we can tap into for both NOHFC and FedNor for this particular project.
Okay, but until 2024, are we able to, because you're saying that the costs have gone up, are we able to until then ask for more funding from NOHFC and for FedNor?
So in August, staff had, after August of last year, staff had actually gone back to both funding agencies and tried to renegotiate their contribution towards the project. And due to strains within the funding agencies and everything else, they are not able to increase their funding.
At all?
At all.
At all? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Councillor Costco.
No, I did come and talk to Carly this afternoon and go through this whole thing and the fact that it's $3 million over budget. Now, one of the things that I wanted to see is I would like to see the revenues from our assets that we own right now, how much they're worth Like I'm talking about the train station, the Centennial Building. What is the value that we have in those? How much equity do we have in those? So can we get a report on all those, both of those buildings?
Councillor, that's not really the item on the agenda at this time.
No, but I would like to see that
But that's not,
because.
it's not, sorry, you're out of order.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about Bigwood, not
Yeah, but
not
can
the
we-
asset report. It's an entirely different topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just,
Yeah, bring it up some,
because will this not go to taxes eventually?
everything going to,
Talk about
most
it
things, I'm sorry, Councillor, you're out of order.
Okay.
We're talking about Bigwood and it's not the asset management or asset report right now. Councillor Lego.
Did we also, one of the projects was to put in water and sewer to Ballard? Was that part of the cost as well?
So through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that's part of the cost of this project. Some of those costs were offset by the airport improvement fees that is allocated towards this project. So out of the $800,000, some of that does include that as well. Yep. And we've spent roughly $51,000 to extend water and sewer service lines from the end of where it ended at the airport to that site.
And we also received rental for that land while Ballard was there, or taxes?
That is correct, yeah.
And Treasurer, and maybe Development Services Manager, part of the Fifth Avenue pipe upgrades and the booster station, part of it is so we have the supply and pressure to go across to Bigwood, but part of it is also because we've expanded the airport and it will allow us to improve the fire protection at the airport. Is that, and sell more lots, develop more at the airport? Is that?
Yeah, so that is correct. So after the airport terminal project was complete, it was then determined that the fire flow wasn't strong enough to support if there was a fire for, let's just say, the airport terminal building and other buildings at the same time up at the airport. So we put that as part of this project so that we can upgrade the booster station so it will supply adequate amount of fire flow and pressure in order for us to develop up there and in order for us to develop on Bigwood site itself. So there will be adequate amount of water flow to support everything up at the airport.
Councillor Lego.
And I know that you spoke to this before, but just for the new councillors, there's been changes in how these projects are going to be brought to council in the future with costing.
So that is, through you, Mayor Lawrence, that is correct in regards to funding and everything else. Those items have been changed and direction has been given to staff from the CAO as how she would like that to be brought forward.
And the intent of this report tonight is to update, it's just an update to council. There's no decisions required here.
Through you,
We're
Mayor
just-
Lawrence, that's correct. Council had directed staff to go back to the funding agencies to see if we could negotiate for more funding, and this is the outcome of those conversations.
Thank you. Council, any further questions on this? So we have a motion, so a vote to receive the report. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Treasurer. Item 7.7, the council authorizes staff to create a human resources reserve for the purpose of retiree benefits, collective bargaining, and arbitration. And further? Was there further? No. So for the purposes of collective bargaining and arbitration. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Bone. Discussion starting with Councillor Cassidy.
I guess my question on this is how often is it that we have a surplus for this budget line that we're trying to redirect into an HR reserve where there's no negotiations that occurred? And my other question is, if we do continually have a surplus, are we going to cap this reserve? Like, is there a certain amount we want to look to put in? Because if we're continually putting our extra or our surplus into a reserve, but then still asking for the additional amount in the budget each year. Then you'll have $20,000 funded by the taxpayers, and we could have 40,000 sitting in a reserve, and it's just a lot of money that just would wind up sitting there. So is there a strategy we could look at to maybe cap this reserve at a certain amount, or just something so it's just not a consistent somewhere that money just goes every year and just kind of sits?
CIO, you're taking this? Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Curly can chime in afterwards. So part of our budget review this year, we were looking at making cuts because the original budget came to the treasurer and I. We reviewed it and we took a look at it and we said, okay. So I went back to the departments and I said, we look for some cuts, ways in which you can be more innovative, or you can absolutely defer some projects, things like that through your regular operating. And in a discussion with our human resources manager, we determined that every year we put in $10,000 for possible arbitration union costs because we don't know. And if we do go to arbitration or there is any grievances filed, sometimes it costs quite a bit of money. So we put that in there as a contingency in that department, as well as the retiree benefits. The retiree benefits, anybody that qualifies, they submit their receipts. But what's been happening over the last couple of years is that there haven't been any expenses. So we're budgeting and collecting tax dollars every year for it. It's being part of the surplus and then going into general surplus or being distributed to infrastructure reserves and so on and so forth. So what we thought as a cost-saving measure in the budget this year is we requested that reserve from the surplus from that department for that amount of money that was budgeted be transferred to reserves and then bring it back out for the budget this year in case it's needed. So there would be no tax implications to the tax base.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you.
Sir.
Through you, Lawrence, just to clarify, there was an error on the agenda. The end further part does read that council authorizes the transfer of $19,250 of the 2022 unused budgeted amounts to the reserve. So my apologies.
So there's the mover was Councillor Cassidy. You're okay with adding that?
It was initially there, it just didn't make it onto the agenda. My apologies.
Okay. I think you moved it, Councillor Cassidy. Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is one time then?
Yes.
That's all, okay.
Any further comments or questions on this item, Council? All in favor? Carried. Carried. Thank you. Item 7.9, exercise of delegated authority during the municipal election period. The Council receives the report from the Chief Administrative Officer as it pertains to the delegated authority under bylaw number 104-21, being a bylaw to authorize the delegation of authority to the Chief Administrative Officer, the Clerk, and the Treasurer to conduct certain business of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux and its Council during the 2022 Municipal Election Restricted Acts period. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Van Breda, and discussion starting with Councillor Bone.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions in reference to the bylaw that was dated November 2021, basically allowing the municipality to, when I guess the council isn't able to deal with it, just simple question. Could it not been brought forward earlier? I mean, this is a long time thing. It's like $500,000 expenditure. That could have been okayed by the previous council, or we could have waited 56 days until the new council was able to look over it.
CIO?
Okay, the report, the membrane, the filtration membranes could have been brought forward earlier, but it was a report that was being worked on by our at the time Public Works manager, and we weren't aware that it absolutely needed to be replaced. They were thinking it would last longer. I can refer to Matt's, our operations manager. He may be able to further clarify the details with that. And with reference to, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Or why they couldn't have waited 56 days until the new council? Because I looked at the date, September 22nd, and it was,
Yeah.
you know, there was, I mean, what's 2 months just to bring it to council to look over it and say, obviously, we're gonna say okay.
Typically,
But-
2 months is not a problem, but because of the lead time, if you notice in the report, the lead time is normally, I think I said
Yeah,
4 to
16
6 months, and
yeah.
now we're talking 16 months.
Right.
So we need 2 months makes a big difference in the lead time under the the circumstances that we're under at the present time.
Yeah, I'm just, like, if it was that close, I'm surprised they didn't come to council earlier and have a discussion, look at, you know, work.
The previous council was aware of this,
Okay.
of the issue with the membranes at the water plant. That's been on the table for some time, that they were going to need replacement.
Okay, very good.
Absolutely. I'm not sure, I hope other council will, their memory is the same as mine. Way better than mine, but on this item. Clerk.
To that, there was also, although council, because it was in the restricted acts period, couldn't actually pass the resolution, there was an informational report provided to council at that September meeting as well, just sort of highlighting the need and you know, relative urgency to get the order placed. So.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, the membranes are like, they are an integral part of our water treatment plant. Without the membranes, we don't have water treatment.
Right.
So I think there was seen as urgency by the staff. Anybody else on this delegated authority question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.11, transition of blue box recycling to full cost producer responsibility. The council directs staff to terminate the contract for blue box program effective June 30th, 2023, with a proviso to extend the contract should it be required. And further, the council directs staff to notify circular materials that the municipality wishes to opt into the program by transferring the responsibility of the blue box program as of July 1st, 2023 through to December 31st, 2025, the transition period. Moved by? No, you can't move. Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. Sorry, I look like you were raising your hand. Discussion starting with Councillor Van Breda.
Thank you so much. So my question is that for option number 2, it's still going to cost us $160,000. So this is just the one-time $160,000 and that's it. And my other question to follow up on that is how much, let's say, will this save us during the course of our 4-year term for this new program?
So this is the user responsibility takes over all responsibility, including all financial applications after July 1st.
Your mic, thanks. The top.
Through the Mayor Lawrence. Yes, so as of July 1st, the producers take full responsibility, full financial responsibility after that. So we're only on the hook basically for recycling for the first 6 months, and then it's 100% pay for the producers after that.
That's it, Councillor Van Breda?
Yeah, no, sorry, just like to follow up. Just say like, how much, like, so let's say if this was not like an option, let's go back to 2020, for example. How much does it cost us for a year of recycling?
It'd be twice as much as the 6 months. It was 168,000, so it's like 320.
So that's how much we're saving per year now?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly? Okay.
Any question that? Yeah.
Just to clarify, in my report, our cost of our current contract is $246,000. The revenue from Stewardship Ontario is approximately $85,800, and that is an estimate. It's based on our data call information that goes in with reference to the amounts of volume of recycling, and that we do in promotion for recycling. So the net cost for 2023 is $160. So we're allocating 9 months, which would be a net. What I did was just prorated it for 9 months based on the 160, so it's actually 120. In consultation with David Gordon from AMO, who is very well versed in this, he suggested that we put a contingency in our budget for another few months after July 1st, because with everything that transitions, and this is a huge program that's transitioning for a large number of municipalities as of July 1st, that there may be a few hiccups, so he's saying to put in a bit of contingency in there.
Councillor Lego.
We're done on July 1st, and the rest just goes into the surplus.
I rather liked the Public Works Manager's surplus better than 360.
Me too.
Anything further, Council? None? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. So we're on to bylaws. Thank you. Bylaw. Are we moving these all as one or all as one? Oh, thank you. Bylaw number 01-23 being a bylaw to provide for the 2023 interim tax levy and late payment charges. Bylaw number 02-23 being a bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of monies to meet the current expenditures of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout. And bylaw number 04-23 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout and His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Solicitor General, Reduced Impaired Driving Everywhere program. The bylaws numbers 1-23, 2-23, and 4-23 be read the first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Bone. All in favor? Carried. I have to ask what happened to bylaw number 03-23. We started a new year, and I noticed the numbers were starting 1, 2, and then we went to 4.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, essentially, staff contact the clerk's department when they're working on reports that are coming down the pike. So we issue bylaw numbers in the order they're requested. So I'm assuming that 03-23 is probably going to be on a report that you'll see in February.
Okay. Just another way you used to confuse us, eh? Give us- We have tonight a notice of motion to, a notice of motion, isn't it?
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes. So the process for that under our procedure bylaw is it has been submitted. My role here is to read the motion and ask for a mover. In this case, it would likely be Councillor Van Breda as he brought it forward. And then the item would come forward for discussion at the February meeting.
You know, one of the great things about having new councillors on board is that, you know, we get to do some things that we just haven't done before or do rarely. So carry on, clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, thank you. So a recommendation to lobby the federal government to reinstate the northern allowance for the Sioux Lookout area submitted by Councillor Reese Van Breda. Whereas the federal government provides financial assistance to those Canadians living in one of two zones, namely the northern zone and the intermediate zone, via taxation credits and allowances. And whereas the municipality of Sioux Lookout and surrounding areas used to be part of the intermediate zone, but this classification was removed a couple of decades ago, and residents in our community and immediate area no longer qualify for the deductions and allowances. And whereas the cost of living in northern rural communities continues to rise at a significant rate, which in the last year has also been compounded by the high rate of inflation, thereby making the cost of living and working in our community significant. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout directs staff to petition the federal government to designate the municipality of Sioux Lookout as a prescribed intermediate zone. And further be it resolved that this correspondence be circulated to the Honourable Eric Melillo, MP Kenora, the Honourable Saul Malmaqua, MPP Kuwaitanug, the Kenora District Municipal Association, the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, the Township of Pickle Lake, and the Municipality of Red Lake.
And we need a mover for that, Councillor Van Breda, and my understanding is there will be no seconder
Correct.
and no discussion until it's brought forward. Thank you. So that will appear on the next council agenda for the February regular council meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that's correct.
Thank you. Outside resolutions, none. Councillor reports. We start over here. Councillor, so this is a report on your activities related to committees, et cetera, in the month previous, and I understand some of the reports may be quite short at this time.
I am on the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which right now does not have enough members to fill, but I have talked with the community, and I'm hoping I will send them the form that they can apply, and continuing to reach out for people to fill those spots with, people that want to make a contribution. We also, Reese and I also visited with the community members of the missing girl, and we did cook a meal for them. So we brought them moose stew, and we also visited Ben and Joyce campus, the three of us.
Thank you. Councillor Bone.
I attended the special council meeting January 9th. I was appointed to the Committee of Adjustment. Committee of Adjustment deals with severances and minor variances applications under the Planning Act. I met with the CAO and various staff to get organized as I'm new to council. There are additional council orientations coming. I will be attending and I'll give updates after that. All yours, Reese.
Councillor Van Breda.
Perfect. And to echo Councillor Bone, I've also been new as well, us three on the side here, on the new side as well, kind of, fitting into we have big shoes to fill, hopefully our feet will grow into those shoes sometime soon. A little update about me. So we did schedule a environmental committee meeting with Councillor Atkinson as well. However, we did not meet a quorum and the meeting did not go forward. There is one scheduled for February 8th, I believe, and until then, hopefully we'll meet quorum then. I will say that I will not be meeting. I'll not be in that meeting just because I will be on vacation. However, I talked with Councillor Timpson, saying that I hope that there will be quorum and that we can start this up again as well. And look forward to our first budget meeting tomorrow, and hopefully, get some things ready and looking good. 2023, feeling good, feeling fine in 23, and yep.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, not a lot here. I tried to put my feet up a bit over the holidays and relax, but I have been in contact with the staff on the Hydro Board and getting set up. Those meetings are upcoming, and I believe last night I was adopted to the PACE Board, so that's official now. So I will be attending those meetings in the next couple of weeks, so report back after that.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I attended the January 9th special council meeting and also went to my first LCC meeting. Basically the highlights of that, M&Rs in transition. Red Lake and Sioux are now becoming one zone. It's going on across Ontario. They're amalgamating zones. We're going to be opening up the term of reference again to address this issue. Well, not an issue, but the transition. And they hope to have an open house for the Phase 3 Lac Sioux Forest in the near future. And that's everything.
Thank you. Since the last regular meeting, I participated as mayor in the emergency management group exercise, in which the staff simulated we find out when we get there what the emergency is, and it was a rail spill that was simulated this year as the emergency management group exercise. It's a mandatory exercise on an annual basis that the local emergency management group must go through, document it, and report to.
Or emergency management.
We've had 4 Policing Cost Coalition meetings as recently as this morning, getting ready for a Roma conference in our delegation with the Solicitor General next week. Attended an Ontario Health Team meeting an informal lunch with Chief Bull and he brought two counselors from Lac Sioux. Minneyawan Foundation meeting, special council meeting with others. Northwestern Health Unit attended as part of municipal council. The health unit put on an orientation that it's been sent to all of you if you want to view it. It's just I think it's about a 45-minute video of an overall orientation, just introduction to the health unit. The last week was KDSB board orientation, 2 days, Wednesday, Thursday, full days. And this week has been KDSB board meetings, 2 full days, today and tomorrow, and various other minor informal meetings. That's been the month that was. And now we have a motion to move into closed session to discuss matters of a general nature. The council moves into closed session at 7:05 p.m. to discuss matters relating to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239(2)K. One item, policing negotiations. And a second item, subject matter relating to personal matters about an individual, including Report out from closed session. Clerk, you can help me through the motions.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, thank you. The council, the first motion will read that council ratifies motion, the direction given to staff in closed session respecting policing costs, and further, that council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 68-22, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by adding George Hogarth to the Sioux Environment Committee and Wendy Simpson to the Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee.
Mover, Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the bylaw number 05-23 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout, January 18th, 2023, regular council meeting be read first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Bone, seconded by Councillor Van Breda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Until tomorrow, that's right. For shredding or whatever.